Welcome to Mighty Banyans on the Bay, the faculty podcast of New College of Florida. I'm Douglas Estes, Associate Professor of Religion here at New College.
And I'm Alicia Mercado-Harvey, Assistant Professor of History and Spanish. And today we're going to have our guest introduce himself.
Yeah, this is an innovation, right?
Right, yes.
Right. Yeah, I'm Ashkan Tabatabaie, and I am Assistant Professor of Music and Digital Media Arts.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your area of music, just to start with, because it's such a huge area.
Right. Like just the music on like here.
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. What do you like? What do you do?
Oh, as far as like writing music. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm primarily. I can call me a composer. I'm interested in writing music. I've been writing music for probably 20 years by now, roughly. And I like to explore all kinds of genres. So that's actually one of the least favorite questions. Not your question, but for composers in general. Like, what genre of music do you write in? Because a lot of times, for composers at this level, we try to come up with new ways of writing music, and sort of like putting ourselves in a genre necessarily doesn't cut it for us, because we try to create new genres, and maybe the history can decide the names later. So we sort of like, and I speak for myself though, I don't know about other people, but usually with living composers, that's the case, that they really don't know what genre they're writing in, but they try to come up with something that is meaningful to them, and then, like I said, the history decides what genre that specific music is going to be in. But you can call, classical, contemporary classical as one area that I'm interested in, and also, I also teach a lot of electronic music classes here at New College, so I write a good amount of like electronic music as well. And my sweet spot in general in composition is electroacoustic composition, where I combine electronic music with acoustic instruments in a way that, it's a nice blend, and Yeah.
So it sounds like one of the cool things is that when students come to study composition with you, you're pushing the envelope in every direction possible, maybe, and they also get an opportunity to not be pigeonholed by genre, but can explore in any direction that they want.
That's pretty accurate, yeah. Maybe the only part that maybe is a little bit different is that the actual students try to do that. As something because I teach composition with Mark Danzigers here together, and we are there to sometimes to actually contain, like some of the directions that some students want to take, not to like limit them or in any shape or form, but to sort of like allow them to be able to finish something. That's a lot of times that's the challenge for any creative work, because we hit deadlines, but that's the reality of life, right? With creativity, it's all about perfection. You want to like make that whatever you're working on as perfect as possible. But at some point, you got to be like, that's enough, and I'm just gonna move on and make it done. So for students, also it's kind of the same. A lot of times they do want to take their time to work on that thing that they're working on, creating new stuff. But at some point, we have to say, okay, like today, for example, we do have two artists. Two singers that are coming to our class to have a reading session of the first drafts of art songs that 4 of our students are writing. So, like for today, they need to have the scores.
Right.
Like hey, you have to sort of like say whatever innovation you're working on. You got to stop here, and then give us something that the performance can work on. Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you got into the electronic music. I'd imagine you have a BA in engineering. So did that, degree have anything to do with the fact that you went into that field?
It's a very good question. I have to really think because we're talking about so many years ago. But it's a great question. I think the electronic music part comes for me from electric guitar. So I grew up playing electric guitar.
Okay.
And as an electric guitar player, you do experiment a lot with like signal flows, and like different units that you can, send your signal to and then process the sound that way. So you, as an electric guitar player, you do actually deal with a lot of electronic sound processing, and like you work with different like effect units, like a compressor, what a compressor does to the sound, like a delay, a reverb, all this stuff, that you can add electronically to your sound. And I think that's the origin of that. And then that actually made me interested in engineering because there is some kind of an engineering aspect to all of that, that is called sound engineering, right? Because you have to really understand signal flow, you have to understand like how sound signal works, to be able to change it, in time and all that stuff. And then it really quickly you understand that you have to understand like physics, how, because sound technically is a physical phenomenon, right? We're moving the air particles in the air as we talk, and then that moving of air particles basically is hitting our eardrums, and then the eardrum is moving, and then the eardrum is attached to another part in the inner ear, and then ultimately all that mechanical energy translates to electrochemical energy when it gets to the basilar membrane and ultimately to the auditory nerve fiber and all that, which then you can actually put an electrode and sort of basically measure all of those changes of electromagnetic field that your auditory nerve fiber is creating. So you can tell that immediately it becomes very scientific when you sort of work with sound and sound engineering. And then that I probably, if I had that mindset when I was like 17, I would have probably gone to like some kind of a sound engineering school. But I liked materials engineering because it had to do with materials and like how things work and how you can build new materials and all that stuff. And in that degree, I learned quite a lot about physics, chemistry and programming a little bit and thermodynamic and lots of crazy things. But yeah, all of which are transferable to like other engineering fields, and ultimately not a lot to sound, but still physics is physics, right?
Right.
So I think that's sort of like the starting of like the engineering mindset for me. And maybe, and then the electronic sound, electric guitar, you can trace it back to electric guitar probably.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So I also wanted to ask you, you did your studies, your BA, your MA in Iran, in Tehran, and then you came for University of Utah for your PhD. So how did you come to New College? How did you learn about New College?
Right. Before, I finished my PhD at the University of Utah, I think it's 2020, if I remember, and and then I did 1 year of postdoc at the same university, and that was in. Okay, so this is another thing I have to explain. I have another interest beside all of this stuff, which is sound perception and cognition. And like if I want to do some like scholarly work, or if I want to like research something, usually that's sort of the area that I'm interested in, like music perception and cognition. And with that, for my master's thesis, I did actually a neuroscience music research, and that was actually published and actually was very successful. And we did some brain mapping on, and then the subject of that was sort of aesthetic of music. And then I was in that project, I was able to actually draw from my engineering background and some coding and some sound engineering stuff. But yeah, and then for my PhD dissertation, I also did the same thing. And one of my committee members actually was an audiologist, and Skylar Jennings, and I did also as part because usually as a composer you do have a creative, sort of like similar to New College, some kind of, usually our musicians have like creative element to their thesis and then some kind of a written document. So usually like my master's degree I did have that, and then for my dissertation, for my PhD, I also had that. But my written part of my dissertation was again music perception and cognition. And then the postdoc was sort of the continuation of that dissertation. In a way, I was working with Skylar Jennings, who was the PI of a auditory perception and physiology lab at the University of Utah. And so we were just running a lab, we were focusing on electrocochleography in that lab, and we're also focusing on the mechanisms of hearing in noisy environment, like how our hearing system or auditory system actually attenuates like noise in a noisy environment, so we can really look at some person in the crowd and then still be able to understand what they're saying despite all the noise. And it turns out actually our auditory system has some kind of a automatic noise attenuation system. I think it was called. I'm blanking on names, but so I had like that for about a year, and then I got a job at James Madison University for a year there. Mm-hmm. I was an instructor there, and also I was doing some production stuff for the school as well, and after 1 year, this job came about, and then I applied for it. It was a visiting assistant professor first. It was 3 years ago. I applied for it, got it, and I actually really liked it because James Madison, it was awesome experience there, but I was teaching a lot of music theory courses, which I love music theory, but I wanted to take a break from it, and this position had more emphasis on electronic music and composition rather than composition and theory. So I applied for it and I got it, so that brought me here. Sorry, it was a very long way of answering your question, but
right.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But then now you're in the tenure track position starting
True.
This year, right?
Yes, starting this year, I started my tenure track position. I'm very excited to see where this is gonna go.
Good. So, is there a favorite class that you have, or maybe a class that you look forward to? I know we all have all our classes that we enjoy to some degree, but is there, or some class that you have coming up that maybe you're excited about?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, I love all of the classes. The
Sure.
collaborative courses that I teach, like, those are probably my favorite courses. Like, I'm co-teaching a course with Dr. Mons Hilden. I think he's also new here. That's his first year here, but I think he's becoming tenure. I think he had a tenure
Yes.
in Colorado, and anyways, so we're teaching a music and AI course, and we all know that there's like this AI race right now in the whole world, right? So and then in any conference that I go to, there's always like a huge section about music and AI, because there's something about music that with technology, a lot of these companies like to use music as their input data.
Right.
And then to be able to train their models and all of that stuff. So yeah, and then again, like I have a lot of interest in that topic as well, and it sort of relates to music perception and cognition as well. So yeah, that course it's been very interesting. That's the first time I'm teaching it, and it's like usually like everywhere else, if you go. And then they have like a music and AI course. That's probably their first time teaching it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's right, because it's all new to us, and
Exactly.
we're teaching it, and then we're revamping it immediately, because it's just changing so quickly. Right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and then that's exactly right. And we did have a list of like tools at the beginning of the semester that we can sort of like explore with the students. And then halfway through the semester, we understood that there's so many other tools that are not out there. And then like a lot of times. As a professor, you want to know all the things, like all the subject matter, so you're teaching to your students, like the tools that you're working, you don't want to like 100% learn with them. We have to be ahead of the game, right, to be able to support that. But with music and AI, it seems like at the moment, we have like a very small window of time to be able to prepare ourselves for the tools that are coming out, which is exciting, because, it sort of puts me in a headspace where I'm constantly learning, and that's sort of like probably the main reason I become a professor. Yeah, because I'm kind of interested in just learning, and so that's one course. And another course, the music composition. It's not a course; it's a group tutorials, but probably from next year is going to be listed as a course. And I'm teaching that with Mark Danzigers. And that has been a very cool course because a lot of times we bring artists in to perform student works. And like I said, this semester we also we got a grant for the tutorials. And we are actually putting a show together on May 5th for students, and it's going to be like art songs, and like it's going to be like vocal students and composition students combined, and they're all going to sing songs with professional performers and some of the student performers. But then we also, as part of the grant, we also proposed that we want to have a concert that's going to be on May 15th for faculty. So all music faculty are actually going to participate in that concert. So that all of this came from this music composition tutorial, which is very exciting. Yeah. Another course that I taught, and I really liked it myself. I'm not sure how much students like. I'm sure they enjoyed it, but it was my first time again. It was a course. It was titled Generative Music and Probability, and that was another sort of way of combining generative music where you work with algorithms to generate some kind of electronic music, but like it's all probability based. Yeah. Right. And that was also very, very cool. I'm looking forward to also explore some, if possible at some point, some kind of music perception and cognition course, maybe co-teaching that with some of our neuroscience faculty here. I mean, I started the conversation a couple of years ago, but it never materialized. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it sounds like the music program is having a lot of really cool new things we didn't used to have at New College. It's like I attended last week, this fantastic concert that they did. It was
with the Chamber Orchestra?
Yes, it was absolutely very impressive. So for people in our community, what this is going to come every semester, please come, because this is a really, really good level of concert.
Yeah.
And so how is all those things, because you're collaborating with Mark, there are all those things happening. Do you see other things coming up? You're talking about the tutorial. Do you have any other projects that you would like to bring to the community?
Yes. We actually collaborated on another project, which was more environmental related, and that's another thing. Like, so right now, it seems like my composition, I have like two streams of works. One stream is sort of combining some old and new elements, and the other stream is compositions about wildlife and preservation and stuff like that, with that kind of theme, which is great because New College has a history in that, and we do have a very strong environmental studies program as well. I am actually hoping that at some point I can put that program together as a concert, and I know Mark also has a piece that is based on rain data in Florida, or like raining data in Florida, and then I think right now I have one piece that is it's a collaborative piece. A lot of my compositions are interdisciplinary. Like I like to connect so many different ideas from different fields, and then give it the artistic kind of vibe to it, and sort of like give a message to the audience, maybe who are not aware of the data, the scientific data, but like they can absorb that through art. So that's like one. So I wrote a piece, it's called Gray Catbird. It was about gray catbirds in general. It's a migratory mimicry bird, and I work with Dana Mosley. She's an ornithologist at James Madison University, and with a pianist Anna Showalter, and visual artist Audrey Lund. And so we all collaborated together, and we had a grant again, and we wrote that piece, and it was performed. And that piece actually being toured right now by Anna. So I think it's been performed maybe, I don't know, like 5 or 6 times. The last one being like last month. And we're hoping to keep performing that, and just having the community, because it is good. Because it's got a lot of the data, like about birds. Because there's this, I didn't know like that we lost about 2 billion of birds, over the past I don't know how many years, and migratory birds also are in sort of risk of losing them, because if I don't want to talk about that because not my field, but
right.
But yeah, anyways.
But the capture and sampling of the birds is the goal there.
The capturing was done by the ornithologist Dana and her team, because they had all these like fancy microphones that they could point out of the, and then they have like wristbands on that they put on gray catbirds, and then they can record them closely. So all that recordings and the data that they analyzed, like that came out of the analysis of the recordings, was given to me, and then I wrote the music, which sort of the message was that the actually urban noise is masking the lower end of the gray catbirds songs, which it seems like they're competing in that range. So it's sort of like where the urban noise is interfering with their communications and possibly mating, which then then can actually mess with their population and all that stuff.
Interesting.
So yeah, and then another composition I collaborated with Heidi Harley. It's a recent work that is it's called Time Traveler, and that was premiered actually in Sonic Festival a couple months ago. And that's for electric guitar and fixed media and projection mapping, where I made a white electric guitar, and I project only on the guitar. And there's again, Audrey Lund is a visual artist, and then I collaborated with her to make that happen. With a nice animation of a dolphin sort of traveling through the guitar, and goes through the guitar neck and all that stuff.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I've never seen it myself live, because I've been the only performer.
Yeah, right.
But like people who have seen it, they all given me very, very good. Maybe the most strong feedback that I've gotten so far is for this composition. So I'm hoping to put all these compositions together, and I'm also working on another environment-related composition. That's a collaborative composition. We'll see how that goes, but with Emily Doolittle, who is a composer in Glasgow, and she has some data for planktons that her actually husband researches, and then I have the data, and I'm sort of like working with her to make another composition about the planktons, like how they rise and they go down like throughout the day and all that stuff. So yeah, all these like wildlife related compositions, I'm hoping to put that together as a package and then make a concert, and hopefully with some like invited speakers like Dana and Heidi and some other scholars, and then have some kind of a lecture recital format. And yeah,
Great.
that's another one that I'm very interested and excited about. Yeah.
And all the things that you're telling us that are coming up as well in May 5th and May 12th, right? Are they open to the public and people from Sarasota can come?
Yes, this later one that I mentioned, that I don't have any plan for it yet, but May 5th, and which is student concerts, and then May 15th faculty concerts, they're all open to public. And yeah, so we're actually
Sainer, right? Sainer.
Sainer is hopefully it's going to be Sainer, yes, and yeah, so it's going to be open to the community, and you're probably going to hear about them soon, right, through the communications, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I know that we'll be attaching some of your music to
Right.
the podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the music that we'll probably be attaching?
I was actually thinking about giving either the Time Traveler piece, the Dolphin piece, or the Gray Catbird piece, one of those.
Okay,
Because they're cool because they have like visual art.
Yeah,
with
the
them.
dolphin sounds really
Yeah,
cool.
Dolphin is also cool. That one though, I don't have, because I finished that and it was premiered like a month ago. I don't have a very high quality video recording of it yet. So
Sure.
that's a summer project that I'm gonna work on and make a video,
Yeah.
music video out of that. But maybe the Great Catbird piece, some parts of it you can put on,
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Okay,
Maybe you
great.
can put a link in the comments for the full
Yeah,
piece.
For
as
sure.
well. Yeah, the music video.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, let's solve one of the greatest problems of humanity, okay?
Okay.
Are you Fender, Gibson, Jackson, PRS? What do you think?
You know, I don't have anybody like PRS probably is an instrument that I like a lot. Fender, I mean, it's hard to choose. You know, it's
It's fair, it's fair.
Like, why do you play any guitar?
Yeah, I play a little bit myself, so that's, yeah, so I was just
What do
curious.
you have?
Well, yeah, but you're the guest on the podcast. But I'm more of I play a Rickenbacker most of the time, and but I'm more of Gibson than I am maybe Fender. So
Right.
it's just my
Yeah,
my
so you're
take.
more of
So
a Gibson guy.
yeah.
Yeah. Gibson is cool because it is a little bit more like classical guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that about Gibson. And I play classical guitar a little bit, so I like that aspect of Gibson. Fender has an iconic sound, right?
Right.
It's like recognizable sound, especially like Tele, you know.
Right, yeah.
It's got a very rock and roll attached
Mm-hmm.
kind of a sound to it. Yeah, like PR is probably like more of a modern sound and it's got more possibilities going on. But right now I have a Jazz Master.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sort of fiddling around with.
I
Right.
think
Right.
these are
Right.
brands, right? Because I'm lost.
Yes. Yes.
It's like
Yes.
guitar
I don't
brand.
play
Yeah.
guitar.
People who play guitar have
They
their
would know.
favorites, and you know it's
Right.
they each have their opinions. Okay. Then top 20th century guitarist.
20th centuries or
20th century.
20th century?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Like electric guitar?
Yeah, electric guitars. It could be your favorite, who you like to listen to,
Right.
technical expertise. Who do you think?
Well, I mean, McLaughlin is a good one. I like his jazz
Okay.
stuff, right? Yeah, it's probably I go with that. I think it's a guy in his 21st century.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe
sure, go
I-
ahead.
He probably was born in the 20th century.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But I think his last name is either like Lage or Lage or something like that. I don't know. I actually,
Okay.
he was coming to Orlando. I wanted to go to his concert. But he's actually very interesting because he plays with the Tele, but he plays jazz.
Ah,
So
okay,
he's
right.
usually not- But like he has very, very interesting improvisation lines. He's an improviser for the most part.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I go with those two for now.
Okay.
That's what
Great.
I mean, I'm probably not. I'm kind of surprised with that. Not surprised, like sort of on the spot on that.
Yeah. No. It's okay. It's okay.
Like I didn't think about it.
Yeah,
Not a
it's
trick
okay.
question.
Yeah,
It's okay.
but yeah, and Mark Danziger. How about that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
There you go. There you
Yes,
go.
we actually heard it
That's
play
right.
at the concert. I
Right.
mean, it's
That's right.
absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Yes,
good. Very
Mark
good.
Danziger
So
is as a player,
Okay.
as a actually a person that I look. Yeah, but because he's very technical. And,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right.
we got a very strong music program. So,
Yes.
so
Right.
people out there who are
Yes.
considering, this is a college where you can now come and do all this fantastic stuff in the music program.
That is right. Yeah, we are excited about all the initiatives in the music program and the directions that we're taking, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, hopefully we can, in near future we can start seeing the results of all these initiatives. At college, like through concerts, through student involvement and all that stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think one thing that's great about New College is something that you mentioned earlier that I think bears repeating, which is that we have a lot of freedom to do cutting edge and experimental type things because we have smaller class sizes. So you were talking about your AI course, and one thing that's great about New College is that you can literally be doing new material as you're teaching along because we have seminar size classes and the students can take part in it too, which is really exciting.
I agree, and especially tutorials also is a good feature of New College that it's been very, very useful and instrumental in being able to go to places that maybe you can't go with courses, and so certainly with the small size classes you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
But like two tutorials that I'm teaching this semester, one is called Release and Tour. I have like 4 students, I guess, in that tutorials, and then about 5 total, like another student who's sort of contributing to the album. So the idea is that those are the students that took my electronic music 2 course, which we need to talk about that, because that electronic music course, I teach electronic music 1 and 2, and those are pretty popular, actually. And then we do have a concert on May, I don't know the date yet, but I think it was May 16th, right? I think the last day of the classes. It's a Friday, right?
Yeah, that's Friday.
Yeah. So that concert usually is full, right? So we sort of go under the radar, but because we don't have a lot of space in Black Box Theater. But yeah, those students took my electronic music 1 and 2, and then I told them that some of them that were interested in live performance, if they want to take this release and tour tutorials where they can actually release an album from those tracks that they made for electronic music too, and then start touring with it. So they have done that, and so they actually performed 2 times with that sort of EP in a way, and the third performance is coming this Friday, and today we had a mastering session to be able to master their EP, and then hopefully is going to be released soon, and so that's very exciting. This is again the first time I'm doing that, and that's in my opinion that's like I never had that opportunity when I was at the school to be able to work with my peers and then put an album together and tour with it.
Right.
It's
Right.
like the ultimate, thing that you want to do as a musician, and then we make that possible at New College for students.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, a lot of the students that get in the electronic music class, they don't have a lot of music background, but we can sort of they come in, and then with all the technology and AI, all the stuff that we have, they can really grow quickly, and you listen to these concerts, and you wouldn't tell that these students have been writing music maybe for only 1 year.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some fantastic opportunities that we have at New College. And so we really appreciate you coming and telling us about all this. And to the community, stay tuned. There's a lot of things coming up in May and in the future. So come and participate because it's open to everyone. So as we always say at the end of every episode, we go Mighty Banyans!